and welcome to the i5 podcast. This is pretty much the last episode before Christmas. Hopefully, we'll get it out in time. I'm Jonathan here with my co-host Jim.
Hello.
Well, it's been quite the winter, really. It's been quite eventful. We've had a lot of things have happened. We've had Trump win the presidency against. Well, a lot of people thought he would win. I didn't think he would win, to be honest. But Trump won the presidency. Assad's fallen in Syria. Starmer's become the most hated man in history in the UK in the history of the UK. It's been quite
And
an eventful
possibly
winter.
in the shortest time period as well, because it's been 3 months tops.
Pretty much, yeah. But we'll get to Starmer in a second. Let's just talk about the first thing: Trump's victory as the president is like one of the highlights of the year. And it's one of the Christmas highlights, to be honest. It happened in November. That has to be the ultimate troll. Like his victory itself, it's reality's biggest fuck you to the Democrats I've ever seen.
Yeah, and the world in general, because
Yeah,
it's surreal.
yeah, it was. It's very unusual for a president to be in office, lose an election, then come back and win one.
Yeah,
That's very unusual.
It shows that people are really fed up with everything and they want something different.
Well, if people say, how did Trump get in? The only reason people like Trump ever get in is when you have weak politicians. Someone like him will come along and thrive.
Yep.
And to be honest, I think the Democrats want to take a long, hard look at themselves. I mean, the thing is, Trump was beatable as well. He did have his hiccups, like that bad debate performance with Harris. Though Harris was like shit as well. And also the incident with the comedians, with the infamous remarks about immigrants and also certain ethnicities. It was a very haphazard election that you think Eek the Cat was running. And Nick Fuentes was hiring the comedians. It was quite haphazard, the campaign he had. Things did go wrong. Obviously, the assassination attempts did him a favor. I mean, there were two of them.
Yeah, this was like the best boost on his campaign that he could ever get. And I would even go as far as to say that he got them for free.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, it was the whole thing. Biden didn't help with his input. Harris was a rushed candidate, and she had a failing campaign. I mean, she just couldn't make herself popular. I don't know why the Democrats ran her. I mean, I do know why actually, but no one in their right mind would have ran her because she was just a crap candidate. She was a bad candidate. And then when you had Biden pretty much alienate half of America with one of his statements, and Harris had to come out and say, no, I don't advocate what Joe Biden said. That doesn't represent me. She's now having to distance herself from the president. You could just read between the lines and say, yeah, my campaign's already doing really badly, so I don't need this old dementia-ridden potato basically saying these things. So you could see her struggling, but I love the Twitter meltdowns.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean,
Twitter wasn't happy at all. They weren't happy one bit.
And I thought that was unreal. But to be honest, just because this is quite a lighthearted episode, there's one thing I do want to highlight, just because I want to laugh at something that became utterly ridiculous. We should remember, Jim, because while Trump survived an assassination attempt, someone else didn't.
Oh,
we need to
yes.
remember Peanut the squirrel.
Yep.
I loved how this just exploded on Twitter. And got
it was
exaggerated.
unjust. I mean, first they killed Harambe and we got COVID. Now they killed Peanut and we're on the brink of the Third World War. I think this is like an omen, a very bad, ill omen.
What did that squirrel know? What got me as well was when I was reading into it. All I remember seeing on Twitter, because I didn't see the story until like I got the Twitter misinformation. Because what Twitter's saying, that's not what happened.
Well, I know a person who's very, very into science. He has watched all the episodes of Rick and Morty, and his comment was, "You never fuck with squirrels." So yeah, I think that squirrel knew shit.
Oh yeah, it'll come back and haunt him. It was just the fact that on Twitter you had the picture of the squirrel with like the cowboy hat on, and just a picture of Biden's face where Biden had the squirrel killed. And I was like, damn, that squirrel must have known something. But for Biden to smoke it.
Yep.
It's the fact it was on Instagram and had a following.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was bad timing just before the election. But that in itself, tells you how fake the story was. Because if this squirrel did have an Instagram following and quite a popular one, why on earth would you have why on earth would you assassinate it before the election? Surely you would wait till after.
Yeah, but maybe that was out of spite. I don't know.
It's just the fact I'm just like I said I'm just honing in on this one because we wanted to cover something a bit lighthearted for the Christmas season because we cover serious stuff all year round, and it was just the fact that did you get that BBC article I gave you? I literally found that about an hour ago, and it's some of the statements made like that you associate like when you have a title with Trump fired up over euthanasia of Peanut the squirrel, and you have JD Vance making comments like. Just to quote the article here, campaigning in Sanford, North Carolina on Sunday, Vance and Republican White House nominee Trump was fired about the squirrel's death. And Vance basically said this: the same government that doesn't care about hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrant criminals coming into our country, doesn't want us to have pets. I mean, first of all, you have Trump saying that, immigrants are eating the pets. Now it's the government are killing the pets. Why are the pets being persecuted?
I don't know. I mean, officially, it's because supposedly it was because of rabies or whatever the fuck
Rabies,
that
yeah.
rabies. But like,
Well,
surely there's other ways to determine that, and I don't know. It was way, way, way off the whole thing. But
it
yeah,
was. I mean, it'll have been a state. I don't know how it works in the US, but it would have been at Biden's level. Animal control is not at Biden's level. It's not the level of the presidency. It'll come under the jurisdiction of the state, I imagine. As part of like local law enforcement type thing. It won't be.
yeah,
It won't be presidential. But it's the fact that people believed it. Not everyone, but people believed it. I mean, I'm sure non-famous squirrels die all the time, and no one cares. But as soon as a famous one gets hit, it gets a Kickstarter. But like I said, it's just some of the because of all the exaggerations. I just couldn't take this article seriously. Like when Peanuts owner Mark Longo said that he accused the agency of using excessive force when it came to his home. I mean, excessive force in the apprehension of a fucking squirrel. When
yeah.
what did the do come with handguns? Like that's the image I get. And when people had like Biden's head,
Funny you
like
mentioned
that.
that. There's actually a game on Steam named Squirrel with a Gun, and it's as the name suggests, a squirrel with a gun shooting people.
Yeah.
Very well made.
Mm. And
Maybe
like
that's what lead them to, actually
mm,
take the squirrel out.
yeah,
I
maybe.
thought it was a
I
threat.
mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I hear things like the hashtag Justice for Peanut and just these kinds of terms associated with a rabies-ridden animal, but the image I have when you say things like Biden had it killed, I just have the image of like a Call of Duty level where Mason and Woods from Black Ops just kick the door down and shoot it with an X16.
After throwing a flashbang, yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if that happens? Like all the disinformation and misinformation about everything in our history in like 10 years from now, because Twitter's so like written in everyone's lives, and they do like a Black Ops about American history and the assassination of Peanut becomes an actual level.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Because we live in that world now.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, a New York congressman, Nick Langworthy, took to social media and actually said it was an unannounced raid. It sounds like it was animal control or something dealing with a squirrel, and it's being called an unannounced raid. And like all of this rhetoric and exaggeration, I don't know how much harm it actually did Biden, but it wouldn't have helped,
Yeah.
especially because it's like The Simpsons where they do something to the pig from the other college because Homer goes to college as an adult and they get the pig drunk or something. And they get the pig drunk and they all get expelled. And the dean just goes to them, I have to expel you guys. That pig had some powerful friends. And it has Richard Nixon saying they'll pay. Don't think you won't pay. This squirrel is on Instagram, so this was quite a powerful squirrel.
Like I said, it's surreal.
It's the fact that the Kickstarter got $140,000.
Of course it would.
Yeah, I've got to say, I didn't think I'd be hearing terms like excessive force when it came to a story about a bloody squirrel.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't get us wrong. I'm just not so we're not putting out misinformation. I don't actually believe that Biden had this squirrel assassinated. I'm merely laughing at the exaggerated stories that emerged from it. So yeah, we're not putting it out there that any of that actually happened. It's just like I said, it's just the fact that there was an Instagram model, a Russian Instagram model who gets killed by Putin, and her body's found dead in a suitcase. Nothing said about it after that Instagram model criticized the Ukrainian war. But a fucking squirrel gets wasted on
That's what
Instagram.
you call priorities.
Yeah. Does that not just tell you what social media is?
Uh,
That's all pretty much I've got to say about that one. How about you?
yeah, don't think I have to say anything else about it either.
Mm.
But
I mean,
yeah, it's weird. I
yep.
heard that the raid was called by a spiteful neighbor who was having a lot less followers than Peanut. Eventually, that person's name got leaked, and before everyone could harass her on social medias, it was a she, by the way. She had to delete everything.
So
So
just
yeah,
so potentially
it
another
was an
Instagram.
Instagram wannabe model that didn't have enough
Mm.
followers and got spiteful of Peanut.
So she had Peanut the squirrel swatted.
Yeah,
That makes it even better. I didn't realize. I didn't realize that Instagram models and the whole Instagram competition was so brutal.
yeah, and they call
But
us the
surely,
animals.
but surely the same audience who follow Peanut the squirrel aren't going to be the type of audience that follow an Instagram model.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you never know.
Mm. No, the more that gets out, you do know that eventually someone's going to buy the movie rights to this.
I hope they do. We do deserve.
I
I
hope
mean,
they
we
do.
got a fucking Netflix series for what was it? Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, fucking legal battle.
Mm.
So yeah, there was no reason we needed that, but we got it anyway. So I expect we get something about Peanut.
I'm just imagining it'll be like exaggerated, so they make Peanut like Rocket Raccoon, so it has like a last stand where he takes out loads of the police,
Yeah,
before they take his last down.
I mean, you could probably do that with AI. To be fair.
Mm. It'll come. I'm sure it'll come. The next thing as well, I thought we could laugh at, mainly because, like I said, things are so depressing. Some of us get Christmas cards at Christmas. Lord knows I give out a lot of them. But during the Christmas season, you get a petition saying that there's a re-election. Now, don't get me wrong. This petition, we're laughing at the reaction to it. I was gonna laugh at the reaction to it if that's okay, Jim.
Yeah,
Um, and what it represents. This petition could not trigger a general election. It was started by some guy that voted Tory who owned a pub, wasn't happy with Labour. He even came out and said he didn't vote Labour. He claimed Labour went back on their promises, went on the parliamentary website, made a petition, and something like 3 million people signed it. It was never going to get Labour out. It was never going to cause a general election. It was a small percentage of the population. And yeah, it wouldn't have been democratic for those 3 million people to trigger a general election. No one's saying that. It was just a way for people to express their feelings about their resentment towards this government. And to start with, some of the left wing reaction to this, saying things like Elon Musk was the originator, which he wasn't. He just liked it because he hates Keir Starmer, and claiming that most of the people were bots, which they weren't, because the Labour fanatics just could not handle the fact that Labour have become so hated that people would talk about this petition.
Hmm.
I just thought the whole thing was funny, to tell you the truth.
What I found surprising is that this petition, because normally you see all sorts of online petitions, they can
Mm.
get like maybe a couple hundred, if they're a bit serious, maybe 100K, 200K at most. This one is closing near to 3 million.
Yeah,
And this is a petition that requires you to sign by name, email, and
yeah,
address. And the reason why I mention these things is because not to highlight that it's verified, but to highlight that it's a fucking hassle. Do you know how lazy people are these days? So
yeah.
that means 3 million people went out of their way not to only click the link, but actually
Mm.
fill in the details and sign the petition. I
Mind
mean,
you, the
I've
the
been
the
online for quite a while now,
Mm.
and this sort of traction is very rare.
Yeah, very. You got it. You got about 4 million with the rejoin the EU once. But to be honest, 3 million is quite impressive, especially for the fact that it went a bit viral and got 1.8 in the space of a few days. The sad thing is, there are some people who will actually believe that this will trigger an election, and it can't legally do that. All it can do is, if it gets to a certain stage, the government will respond to it, which the government has, and they've just repeated their old rhetoric talking about working people, despite the fact that Keir Starmer can't define what a working person is. And I think if they get X amount, they have to have a debate in Parliament. The parliamentary debate will go nowhere. It's just making people feel like they're being heard by MPs
Yeah,
discussing it.
supposedly this will be discussed on January 6th,
Mm,
but it's just like, oh yeah, we talked about it. We decided we're not gonna do anything about it. So there's that.
mm. Yeah, because January 6th isn't an ominous date.
Yes, I thought this date seemed familiar. But yeah, this whole thing is like you can sign petitions that they will be discussed, but that doesn't guarantee some sort of
Mm.
results happening out of it. Oh yeah, we're
What?
gonna talk about it and see what happens. But everyone knows that when we're gonna talk about it means fuck all.
Mm. But I have got to give it to Stormer because all of these Labour fanatics are saying things like, "Oh, Labour aren't as hated as possible." There is now a subgenre of Christmas music completely devoted to how Keir
Mm,
Starmer has depraved the elderly of the winter fuel allowance. He's created a sub genre of music.
that's only 3 months in.
Yeah, that's 3 months in. I'll play about 10 seconds of such a song in the video. I don't want to play the whole thing or more than that because music is a little bit sketchy on YouTube, and I don't want to get a
Yeah,
copyright strike.
copyright laws are a fucking bitch.
Mm.
So
The
yeah,
video, the guy who did the video
we're gonna
says
have a
share
link
it,
in
so I'll
in
share it.
the description.
Imagine being 80 years old. That's where I'll be since Keir left me. I wish tears could heat my home.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the description. We'll share the video. And
Mm,
I mean, I mean, did you see the song, Jim?
yeah,
That was good. And did you see the
it
AI
was
video
very
for
well
it and everything?
made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw multiple songs like that getting loads of views. So he's becoming like a Christmas villain. I mean, there have been politicians like Cameron who were hated at Christmas after, preventing those on benefits, including the disabled, from getting early payments before Christmas in case they, want to buy their children a present, or firing a bunch of civil service workers before Christmas. Starmer topped that by cutting the fucking fuel allowance for what's looking to be one of the coldest winters that we're going to get, that the country's ever going to have. I mean, we're actually predicted to have a snowstorm later on in the week. We're predicted to have snow on Christmas Day, which sounds magical, unless you have no winter fuel, or you can't afford to put the heating on, in which case it's going to be freezing.
Well,
I mean, he's leveled up the hatred people have for politicians to the point where people are becoming musical.
well, you know what's cheaper than gasoline? Alcohol, and alcohol keeps you warm.
Yeah,
So
but they tax that.
yes, but it's still cheaper than buying
Mm.
than paying your gas electric bill. So my point
You
is,
know,
you keep the heating off, but you drink yourself enough to get warm or drunk enough so you don't care about the cold. See?
true,
And you will also be in a very good spirits because you'll be drunk.
true.
Man, the president has thought about everything, about giving everyone a magical Christmas that they deserve and want.
Mm,
I don't know why people complain.
indeed. You
It's
know,
it's beyond me.
I've actually heard if you stand in front of a mirror and say "Bloody Maggie" 3 times while staring into the mirror, Margaret Thatcher appears and brings back monetarism. Though I think if we did that and she came back, she'd be disappointed as Starmer is pretty much going after the poor more than she ever could.
I thought that if you do said ritual rather than Margaret Thatcher, it's like your allowance disappears.
Yeah, every time you do it, Keir Starmer takes us something away.
Yeah, it's like a reverse summoning. It's like a desummoning. You're desummoning
Mm.
your money and funds, and yeah.
I mean, what's even better is Angela Rayner basically saying, and I use that term mostly by the way, her being better. Labour's lost some council elections, So now she's talking about devolution, which would postpone council elections in May to prevent Labour from losing them.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing though is what you were saying just before we came on, because I didn't realize this. I mean, I did know about it, but it's just hit me. You know what I was saying before about bad politicians letting people thrive. The fact that Elon Musk is in the U.S. government now as one of Trump's appointees, and aside from the fact he's been wanting to call up British politicians for election interference, I mean, good luck doing that. But I do think that some of them should be up. Some of the journalists over here should be up in America for U.S. election interference. But he's now, you were saying he's now talking about pumping a lot of money into Farage and Starmer completely fucking it up, continuing what the Tories were doing and continuing the rhetoric. He's left the door wide open for a well-funded Nigel Farage or an Elon Musk-backed Nigel Farage to have a serious go at the premiership office.
Can you imagine if that happens, how much power that man will have? He will have power over America and the UK. That's borderline scary. Honestly,
it is.
It shouldn't be the case. Just because you have money doesn't qualify you to be politician.
No, it doesn't. You're right. But that's not stopped the system in the UK before. I mean, if it's not Elon Musk, I mean,
UK, US, name one country where this doesn't happen.
Oh.
At least in Europe.
True. I don't even know how you would change it. And
yeah.
it's leading to absolutely absurd candidates who are winning. I don't hate Trump the way other left-wingers do. I don't think Trump is a Nazi. I don't think he's a fascist. I don't think he's any of those things. I think he's just a typical Republican, to tell you the truth. But he's a bit more aware of what people are fucked up about. And he's more capable of expressing opinions about it that people can relate to. And I don't fully agree with anything he says, but I have agreed with him on certain things in the past. And I can see why Trump has won. But Trump has only won these elections because, there's a lot of suspicions about the Biden election, but the Hillary Clinton and Trump election, Hillary Clinton is a bad candidate. People need to accept that. She was an awful candidate. She was ridiculously corrupt. And it was just lie after lie after lie. But the trouble was that, unlike Trump's lies, Clinton's could be proven wrong. Because she would say things like Donald Trump voted for the war on Iraq, or he's pro the war on Iraq. He may have been at some point, but he was always, whenever I remember him from back then, he was always the loudmouth talking about being against war on Iraq. And, the Democrats with Hillary Clinton just came off as crazy because Hillary Clinton was so entitled, thinking she's just going to win it. But Donald Trump actually had a campaign where he knew local political issues, and he would visit every single state and talk about their local economies.
He even booked someone for a victory concert. She was delusional.
Oh yeah, very much so. And then she had that speech where she said, "If you're going to vote for Donald Trump, you're a racist or you're a homophobe." It's like, that's right, because if you call people that if they vote for something, they're totally not going to double down and vote for the person to spite you.
Yeah, so that's exactly how it works.
The Democrats did throw that one away. And Kamala Harris against Donald Trump, the fact that Kamala Harris was just throwing celebrity after celebrity after celebrity, and people we've reached a stage where people are starting to distinguish the majority of people, well, not the majority, but maybe 60% of people, especially the swing voters, they're starting to distinguish being a fan of someone and actually listening to their political opinions. If anybody was going to get Kamala Harris elected, it would have been Taylor Swift. Or would it have been? Given the fact that Taylor Swift's audience aren't most of them under 17 or something.
Yeah.
So Taylor Swift comes on, endorsing Harris. Taylor Swift is a billionaire. Or she must be at this point, or coming close to it. I don't care what her political opinions are. Because what attracts her to a politician is not going to be the same thing that attracts me to a politician. Because of the sheer difference in wealth. And a lot of people have that reaction. It's so easy to be pro-politician when you don't have to worry about money. And I say the same thing to the people who endorse Trump, people like Hulk Hogan. That guy's a multi-millionaire, at least. I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he's got millions. that guy does not need to worry about money. But Trump did the right thing, not having as many celebrities. Whether he could get them on board or not, I don't know. But it was just comical that the Democrats were just throwing celebrity after celebrity after celebrity to endorse Kamala Harris, and she still couldn't win.
Yep. People had enough.
Yeah.
So when they have had enough and they want change, they tend to look into what's outside of the standard choices. I mean, that explains why we see in Europe in general a rise on the right-wing political parties, which has been unprecedented since forever.
And I've got to say, Keir Starmer is acting exactly like Democrats in the US. I'm not saying Nigel Farage would become prime minister if he ran as a prime ministerial candidate, but if there was ever an opportunity for him to become prime minister, the next election is going to be the one to do it. So the next election is going to be the one to provide that opportunity.
And by the looks of it, Elon is looking to sponsor him in a way, same way he did with Trump.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that's a good thing.
Nope.
I thought Trump was the lesser of two evils between him and Harris. But what I will say is, for all these diehard Trump fans, well, is Trump now not in the pocket of Elon Musk?
I wouldn't say he's on his pocket, but it's more the case that Elon has now influence.
Yeah, he owes
and
him.
can bend regulations and rules to his favor because he owns a lot of companies.
Yep. And let's be honest, Twitter's becoming a media it's becoming a media outlet in itself, not a good one. And Elon Musk pretty much devoted Twitter to being pro-Trump, even though people were constantly criticizing him. One thing I do think is funny, just as a side note, you know, The Guardian in the UK.
Yeah.
They've decided to leave Twitter because the real reason they gave a false reason, but the real reason why they're leaving is because of the amount of community notes that would always hit their articles.
I mean, I can cheat for Twitter for ages, or now X, but the community nodes are actually a quite nice feature.
I like them.
Yeah.
I think they're an excellent feature, and I'm not surprised the Guardian are running away from them. But yeah, make a call now. Do you think Nigel Farage will ever become prime minister in this country? Do you think you'll ever see, or do you think you'll ever see Elon Musk actually funding reform?
I can totally see Elon Musk funding reform, but I think Nigel cannot win.
And to be quite frank,
it cannot win because of how the system works in the UK, and no one will vote to change it. Because I think no one would actually want someone like him in power.
You would have to get PR in for Nigel Farage to have to stand a chance, and that it'll never happen. Politicians are terrified of it. There was one chance to get PR, proportional representation in, and Nick Clegg had the chance to do it in exchange for going into coalition with David Cameron, and he just refused and didn't try it. So if it wasn't going to get put in there, not that it ever had a chance really, but it just seems like it gets dropped every time someone becomes an actual government member. It just gets dropped altogether. But I think that you can tell Keir Starmer's scared of Elon Musk funding Nigel Farage in reform. But again, it's because of what Labour are doing. It's because of Keir Starmer himself that all this is happening and the people funding him. So if Nigel Farage increases in popularity, if these petitions scare you, don't challenge the credibility of the petitions. Blame Keir Starmer for being not much of a politician. I mean, what do people expect? This guy is so stupid. He's cut winter fuel just before Christmas. That is not a good image. He went out of his way to implement that the very first winter, and he did that amidst rhetoric of people are not economically productive. Then you have the assisted dying bill to distract from the petition. I don't know who his PR guy is, but they need to speak to them.
Like, surely there must be some sort of council for these decisions, right? It's not like he wakes up one day and says, "Oh, I'm going to do this because fuck you." I hope. But if that's the case, then that says a lot about the people under him and his colleagues. Because, as you say, what the fuck?
I mean, also the fact that Rachel Reeves lied on her CV about her accomplishments. Apparently, she wasn't a chess champion. I mean, surely she would have known someone was going to check that out. And she also lied about her career as well. She's only the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Jim, if you lied to your employer about your CV, what would happen?
In which country?
The UK.
Oh, nothing good, I would imagine.
I mean, where I work, people have lost their jobs for having degrees with the wrong title after claiming they had a degree with a different title. That's the standard people are held to. In my job, yet Rachel Reeves in government, Chancellor of the Exchequer, can lie about a CV, experience and everything, and lie about a background and retain a job.
And she's still not fired.
And people wonder why Nigel Farage is gaining in popularity. It's also the fact now that a lot of the media stations are trying to shut down GB News because that's one of Nigel Farage's platforms.
Really?
Ofcom have been after them for a while. I'm not a fan of GB News, but I don't agree with shutting them down. Like, admittedly, every single news channel that came on, I gave a chance. I thought GB News was all right. Didn't agree with everything they said. Whether people like it or not, they are a corporate mainstream channel. People shouldn't kid themselves about that. They cover issues that they think will attract an audience, and that's about it. They have their biases. The only channel that I genuinely didn't like because it was shit was Talk TV. That one didn't last long.
Yeah.
I mean, what I loved about that, just as a quick tangent as well, because I think Talk TV is a fairly recent one. It was the fact that the CEO of Talk TV got told you have to improve by Christmas, and then the political editor for them resigned. I reckon she was kicked out, along with a few people, because they just weren't attracting an audience. I mean, I used to watch some of the streams. They would, I mean, the thing is, the news desk would get blamed on Tom Newton-Dunn, but it was also another person hosting it as well, and she was just as much to blame as him. And those streams would get something like 200 views or something like that. Like, Talk TV just could not bring the ratings in because it was such a crap channel. So, and like I said, just bring that up because I gave that one a chance to see what it was like. I'm not gonna stop myself from watching something just because it's seen as alt right. I mean, remember as well, all of these channels are Ofcom regulated. You're not going to get out and out racism on the channels because of that. But I would be sad if GB News was taken down just because it's a bit different. And you don't gain anything by silencing your opposition. If you want to have counter arguments to what the opposition is saying, you need to be able to let them speak so you can listen to their arguments. So, yeah, I'm really not that, I hope Farage doesn't increase. I hope Farage's position doesn't increase. But what I'll say is once upon a time, people said that he would never be an MP, and it happened. So
yes,
I'm not so sure.
The probability isn't zero, but I think it's incredibly hard for him to get everyone, especially with how the system works in the UK in terms of the elections.
Well, you say that. It really depends as well, because only less than half of the people actually voted in the election. What will be scaring the politicians is whether Nigel Farage can get the people who don't usually vote to vote for him. I think that'll scare the UK government right now, and that'll scare the establishment.
Can they actually do anything about that, though, if that happens?
Well, I don't think so. They can try and prove election fraud. To be honest, Labour is actually being accused of a few things. I've forgotten who it was, but one of the Labour candidates is actually being challenged for vote counting fraud or something like that. And both the Green Party and the Green Party and an independent candidate was actually challenging legally the Labour Party. I've just forgotten who they are because I wasn't planning to bring it up on this video. So Labour they're not without some accusations themselves. So I honestly don't know what's going to happen in the new year with Starmer. Like I said, I've never seen people hate a politician so much, and I've never seen the wheels come off so soon as well. Because the last thing that Keir Starmer wanted was Elon Musk having any kind of influence at all. He hated the fact that Musk had Twitter, and now Musk is in the US government. and already talking about making donations to reform.
Yeah, and there's been a lot more of
yeah.
interaction as well between the two, like public interaction.
Well, it's that and Nigel Farage is good friends with Donald Trump.
I'm not surprised, but yeah.
Mm. That was the other thing as well. Did you hear Nigel Farage basically saying that he was offering his services to liaise with Donald Trump on behalf of the UK government? The UK government said no. And of course, Donald Trump was like, yeah, I'll talk to Nigel.
Yeah.
So I don't think Nigel Farage is going to go away anytime soon because right now he's got support from the most powerful man on the planet, which is Donald Trump right now, because he's the president of the US.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, you got anything else you want to talk about on that one?
No.
Just one last thing I thought we'd laugh about as well. I think I gave you the video of this, the Navarra Media one.
Yeah, the video
Did you
you
watch?
watched earlier, you mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'll post it now. I was going to release this as just a little 30-second clip or a minute-long clip on the channel because I've taken some editing liberals with it, and I'll play it now.
It's funny, shameless. I kind of just wonder if, sort of like bouncing back on what you were saying there, Ash, is if sort of like media training for like government ministers, it's kind of like, you know, like SAS officers where they sort of pretend to torture them and they've got to practice like not giving out information. I assume they do this. Maybe they don't, but this is, in my imagination, this is what you do in the SAS. They sort of pretend to torture you, and you're sort of like, I won't tell you the secrets. I won't tell you the secrets. I imagine with the government, is you have the PR guy, you know, the Alistair Campbell type figure, but for the Conservatives, and then you've got this cabinet minister, and you're just like pulling down their trousers. You're like rubbing a frankfurter in their face, and you're like you're just doing whatever you can to make them as humiliated as possible. And you say, and what's the correct policy? The government policy is the correct policy. The government policy is the correct policy. Just stop putting the frankfurter in my face. Do you think that's what media training is like for these people?
But you know what? Now you put it like that, I think it starts a lot earlier.
See, normally we don't take shots at other media promotions, but I think that one had to be talked about. I found this and thought it was weird, mainly because it goes from Michael Walker, the host, talking about politicians having to stick to answers no matter what, to no matter how stupid and nonsensical they are, to what appears to be a very specific fantasy or fan fiction he's written. That is clearly fan fiction that he's written. That's bleeding into his work there.
Yeah.
It's very specific.
It is. But also it's a bit funny because it's like they have no training, because if they did, you wouldn't hear the stuff that you do hear.
Yep. They like Navarro like to claim that this hard-hitting news discussion channel, because that's what they are. They're a news discussion channel. They react to stories, and I've agreed with them in the past. I've disagreed with them in the past. But Michael Walker's that host. He's always been a bit of a strange one, and it's the fact that it just goes from like torture in the SAS to being compared to having like pants pulled down and frankfurters waved in front of their face. You know, he brings up SAS level torture, then goes to the internal party torture, the internal party of the Conservatives with the PR guy, and it's the fact he's very graphic with describing the frankfurter and being waved across the face, and it's just the silence in their studio after he says that because no one can believe they've just heard that. And what gets me is Navarra Media left it in, because Navarra Media, their live streams, they take them down as soon as they're over, and they'll edit if necessary. And I'm amazed that was left in.
Well, even if they didn't leave it in, people would surface it.
True. But yeah, I just thought I would bring that up because it was just such a weird thing to see. I mean, you feel like you're watching a semi-serious news broadcast, and then that just pops up.
Yep.
And like, did you see the way Ash Sarkar as well? The other host was laughing at it, but then she moves it straight on.
Yeah, because she was like, "What the fuck did I just hear?" Anyhow.
Is that like why he's into politics? Because he imagines shit like that goes on. I mean, it might do. It's just weird that he talked about it on air. But beyond that, I think that more or less covers it. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nah.
Right. Well, with that, for everyone who watches, please have a Merry Christmas and a good New Year. I was Jonathan, and this was my co-host Jim.
Mihoy.
And have a good Christmas, y'all. Bye now.
Bye bye.